presenting my action research project. The purpose of the study is to uncover how perceptions of teachers with students with limited language proficiency influence how well students learn in the classroom with the use of multimodal strategies. The process of learning is not one size fits all, especially when the learning needs of diverse learners are specific to the needs of students with a myriad of conditions. Students with limited English proficiency or English language learners are a diverse subgroup of students in which the need of entry points are necessary for the academic success of students with this academic subgroup. Before beginning, there was an extensive literature review based on the topic in the field of the chosen topic. Such literature that talked about these topics included cognitive affect theory and cognitive load theory, differentiation, scaffolding, and grit, and least restrictive environment. So, what's the problem, you ask? The problem at hand is in this research action study is how the use of multimodal strategies can support ELS and remove instructional obstacles such as access to vocabulary, writing skills, communication, and academic success. Often in an academic setting, the access of EL achievement can be hindered by instructional obstacles that lie in the way of ELs or students with limited proficiency. Often teachers who aim to help all students achieve are the direct culprits for placing these obstacles that lie in the path of ELs. In response to this dilemma, the following research questions must be answered to explore in this study. How do the perceptions of teachers impact the success of students with limited English proficiency with the use of multimodal strategies? Data collection for this study will be in the form of a perception survey. The data uncovered from the perception survey will focus on demographic data, including information on age, race, culture, and grade level. The next section of questions will be 6 Likert scales that provide a scale of teacher perception in each multimodal strategy. The final section will center around 4 open-ended questions to gauge the ideas of educators and highlight the perceptions related to teachers in using multimodal strategies. Here is the online survey that was administered for this study. The sample questions used within this survey relied on perception surveys, such as Likert scale models that included ranking, as well as open-ended questions. Here are some sample questions used within this open-ended survey. Data was compiled and analyzed. The 4 charts on this slide show the impact of student learning in the 4 different areas of student emotion, differentiation, least restrictive environment, and access to the common core learning standards. These 4 charts refer to the impact of student learning in other areas such as grit, student motivation, providing time for students in the process, and how student emotions play an impact. There were many perceived important practices from the survey. Most teachers in the survey perceived teaching practices to be the most important in impacting student achievement, as well as the highest scores going to grit, motivation, providing time, and of course differentiation techniques. These 4 major areas were perceived to be the most important practices in impacting student achievement. Although very important, not as important, these perceived practices seem to score the lowest. In these answers, the lowest perceived practices really focused on student emotion, least restrictive environment, access to the Common Core learning standards, and technology integrated within the curriculum. Although important, not ranking as high as the other ones, as according to the perception of teacher practice. Although this was a great start of data, this data uncovered more information that needed to be researched. In order to do this to collect further information, an interview with a veteran educator to uncover integration of research-based strategies for diverse learners was then utilized. Knowing that the success and learning outcomes of students weighs heavily upon the beliefs, prior knowledge, and lived experiences of the teachers that prepare learning experiences that contribute to understanding. The lived experiences of teachers play a significant role as they determine the most appropriate resources, technology supports, and instructional materials to engage, support, and provide diverse learners with varied learning experiences. A new survey was conducted, and in this term, the questions were categorized in terms of 3 major categories. One being demographics, which referred to the teacher's lived experiences. The second tenet really referred to classroom management beliefs, instructional strategies, which really spoke to teacher practice and process. And finally, the last tenet was curriculum and how teachers integrated the product and final process of learning. So what were some sample questions to be able to unpack this understanding and lived experiences of students and teachers? Some sample questions included: how do you make selections of resources for a culturally relevant pedagogy approach? How do you modify and differentiate curriculum to meet the needs of diverse learners? And based on opinion alone, what is the most important aspect every teacher should know to ensure that instruction supports all learners? Thinking about classroom management beliefs and instructional strategies, these questions were categorized into process and product questions based on their themes. And the same process was done with curriculum type questions. After the questions were asked, they were categorized in between process and product questions to understand teachers' perception regarding planning and instruction. Implications from these findings determined a few pieces of information. The perceptions of teachers play a large role in the success of students. In understanding their perceptions and how to integrate multimodal strategies to support the learning needs of all learners, especially those with limited language proficiency, can help support the development of professional learning and instructional coaching. When an educator sees the benefit of integrating the strategies, then an impact for student achievement for all. This really got into implications for digging deeper for systems for implementation of this integration and professional training for teachers in order to be able to do this endeavor. Implications from this study really dug deeper and found the most effective strategies for addressing the learning needs of students with limited language proficiency. In terms of thinking of novice teachers, the idea of designing classroom management and designing classroom instruction that supports these learning systems in order for students to be successful came from the results of the study. Other findings for this study that highlighted the impact on student instruction was learning should match the learning styles of students' strengths. Learning should allow for students to interact with the real world. And of course, all learning experiences should involve choice. And choice should allow the type of learning that students want to do. This is a direct support for teachers in implementing instructional strategies for diverse learners. This includes implications for professional learning for teachers, designing school-wide systems for improvement, and really thinking about school-wide coherence models for instructional planning, assessment design, and standards-based assessment. Thank you for your time.